every day was a challenge. Every day was more of the same, that refusal to follow even the most basic instructions, the meltdowns over things that felt so small, arguments non-stop, emotional dysregulation, and then repeat day after day after day. And I'm feeling the emotions, come over me now. It got so bad, I eventually dreaded getting out of the bed in the morning. So this book isn't written by someone who is far removed from the challenges that caregivers of children with ADHD face. I get it 100%. And I want to help you know exactly what to do to help your child with ADHD. Welcome to the Soaring Child Podcast, where parents of children with ADHD learn tips and tricks to help their child soar at home, at school, and in life. We feature interviews with experts, medical professionals, and parents just like you who are learning how to reduce ADHD symptoms using food and other natural strategies. Because children with ADHD deserve to soar just like every other child. I'm your host, Dana Kay. Years ago, I wanted a book that would just clearly spell out exactly what I needed to do to support my son with ADHD naturally, but I could never ever find it. Can you relate to that desperate search for answers, that constant Googling for something, for anything that might actually help you get some relief from those challenging ADHD behaviors? If so, then this episode is definitely for you. When I was looking for that book, I struck out over and over again. There was no book out there that gave me the information I needed in a way that I could understand and really implement effectively. Novelist Toni Morrison once said that if you find a book you really want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. So that's what I did. I am so excited to announce that my book, Thriving with ADHD, A Guide to Naturally Reducing ADHD Symptoms in Your Child, is launching into the world. This is my first book, and I think it's going to be really helpful for caregivers of children with ADHD. It's literally my life's work, the guide I needed when I started this journey with my son, but I just couldn't find. It's everything I teach in my programs, but in an easy to understand, succinct way. It's really different from other books out there because I am not only a practitioner, but I'm also a mum who gets it. I've been where you are. I remember the feelings. I remember one time I fell into bed late one night and told my husband, Ben, my child's tantrums are ruining my life. I don't like my son. I love him, but I don't like him. And as the words left my mouth that night, nearly 10 years ago, I immediately felt guilt. And then the self-deprecating thoughts began. What kind of mum thinks her child is ruining her life? What kind of parent says those things out loud? Now, my husband tried to lift my spirits, but really, there was only so much he could do. Every day was a challenge. Every day was more of the same, that refusal to follow even the most basic instructions, the meltdowns over things that felt so small, arguments non-stop, emotional dysregulation, and then repeat day after day after day. And I'm feeling the emotions, come over me now. It got so bad, I eventually dreaded getting out of the bed in the morning. So this book isn't written by someone who is far removed from the challenges that caregivers of children with ADHD face. I get it 100%. And I want to help you know exactly what to do to help your child with ADHD. I've seen the steps I outline in the book work for nearly 1,000 other families of children with ADHD, plus my own son. And I would be honored to walk with you on this journey. So, what's in the book? In chapter 1, we explore the backbone of natural ADHD symptom reduction, why it works, and what the science and the real life experience has taught me. In chapter 2 and 3, you'll learn what foods to eat for ADHD, as well as what foods to avoid and why. In chapter 4 and 5, I'll clear up any confusion you might have about superfoods, genetic modified organisms, and organic produce. In chapter 6, I'll provide a step-by-step guide to meal planning to remove all the stress and confusion of this often dreaded task. In chapter 7, I'll help you avoid the traps that many caregivers I work with fall into. These caregivers think their child are completely gluten-free, only to realize shortly after that there are hidden sources of gluten lurking in their pantry and keeping them from seeing the progress they want to see. And I fell into that category as well many years ago. Then in chapter 8, we'll talk about supplements. In chapters 9 and 10, we'll explore some of the most common obstacles caregivers of children with ADHD run into when they begin changing their diet. Challenges like picky eating, financial barriers, difficult family members or friends, and a host of other obstacles. Finally, in chapters 11 and 12, we'll look at what to do when a caregiver makes all of these changes and their child is still struggling. It would be really nice if we could do one thing that was guaranteed to work. Just change the food you eat and your child will no longer struggle. I wish I could make that promise. Unfortunately, that's not the reality because every child is so different. Every family is different and every circumstance is unique. Our children with ADHD are a whole person. So sometimes just changing the food they eat isn't enough. Sometimes we need to dig a little deeper for underlying stresses in their unique bodies. Or sometimes we need to look at how we interact as a family. Is it possible that the family has developed new ways of interacting with one another that aren't exactly healthy? We will look at these issues and more in the final couple of chapters. Plus, included in the book are a ton of free bonus resources like printables, downloadables, training videos, games, coloring pages, and so much more. Seriously, it is everything I needed, but couldn't find when my family was really, really struggling. And so I've created it for you, for the parents of children with ADHD, for the caregivers of children with ADHD, so they can find the same peace that I did and that 1,000 other families have found as well. So check out the show notes for the link to pick up Thriving with ADHD today. I'm your host, Dana Kay. Thank you for tuning in to the Soaring Child. Thank you for listening to the Soaring Child podcast today. To learn more about how to help your child with ADHD soar using natural strategies, visit our website at ADHDthriveinstitute.com and follow us on social media at ADHD Thrive Institute.